home. Remember what I said, right? You need to make you need to make at least $31 an hour to survive. And even if you double their income, they still wouldn't be able to make enough. This is why also paying attention to local politics is important. And I'm saying that because a lot of times we focus so much on the national level, but local's also deeply important. Because they're wasting money on these hotels. The money will come to these hotels. They are fine. What about the workers? That's what's important. As many of you know, I live in Orlando, Florida. I know. Go ahead. Feel sorry for me. It's all right. One of the things I think that a lot of people don't realize is that in Orlando, you need to make above $30 per hour to survive in this city. This is far from the reality for workers. In my neighborhood, many workers are employed in the tourist industries. They're in hotels. They're in attractions like Disney, Universal, and SeaWorld. They are in shops, restaurants. We have a mall that's right down the street. That's this huge, kind of swanky, hoity-toity mall called the Millennium Mall. So you have all these shops here that's really built for tourists. And so that is basically the crux of, especially this part of Orange County that people work in, is that the big part of the industries where they work. But I want to share this article out of the Orlando Sentinel. And it really just talks about how even in local politics, they really just don't care about workers. It's really ultimately about the businesses. Let me make sure. Okay. It says dimming commissioners vote to keep Orange County low-wage labor land. Let me refresh this so they can. Everything looks kind of wonky. Okay. So Demings commissioners to vote to keep Orange County low-wage labor land. So it says for years, Orange County has had the lowest median wages of any major metro in America. We're talking dead last, 50 out of 50. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, lower than even smaller cities with lower costs of living like Birmingham, Alabama, and Louisville, Kentucky. This is what happens when you build an economy around ride attendants and hotel housekeepers. You get a workforce full of people who struggle to make ends meet, as a Sentinel detailed a few years ago in its Laborland series. It says, well, this week, Orange County leaders voted to double down on all that to forever be Laborland. Mayor Jerry Demings. Now, just to let you guys know, Mayor Jerry Demings, who is the mayor of Orange County here in Orlando, is the husband of former Congresswoman Val Demings. If you guys remember, Val Demings actually was a congresswoman. She was also on the short list for Biden's vice president back in 2020. And she also was pretty prominent during the impeachment hearings against Donald Trump. Val Demings is a former cop. She was actually the chief of Orlando Police at one time. And at the same time she became chief of police in Orlando, Jerry Demings, her husband, became the sheriff of Orange County Sheriff's Office. So Orlando is literally in Orange County. So you have a husband and wife that are literally head of the law enforcement of Central Florida. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a conflict of interest. A husband and wife, a couple that's literally running law enforcement in Central Florida? Yes. Then Val Demings ran for representative of my district, which is now occupied by Maxwell Alejandro Frost. She was running the 10th district, and she became representative of the 10th district. At the same time, who ran for mayor of Orange County? Jerry Demings. He won, became mayor of Orange County, and then a district in Orange County was represented by Val Demings. More conflict of interest. She decided to run for Senate. She lost against Marco Rubio, which is hilarious. And now, if you look at it, he is still the mayor of Orange County, but it shows where his loyalties lie. This dude's in with the hotel barons, basically. So let's continue. Just to give you guys a little bit of an overview. So Mayor Jerry Demings and most of his peers in the mostly Democratic County Commission, by the way, they're all Democrats, yes, voted to spend another $500 million on a convention center that is nearly 7 million square feet. The Orange County Convention Center is massive. Massive. Trust me, I've been in there. You can put buildings up in that motherfucker. That thing is huge. I wish that the picture would actually load on this, because the Orange County Convention Center is massive. I'll actually look up a picture. Because this thing is massive. I'll show y'all a photo of it. But it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But it is massive. So this convention center, it says, is 7 million square feet. It is rarely fully occupied and usually runs a deficit, all to please the hotel lobby, even as this community has other pressing needs. Let me just share with y'all. Make sure. Okay. Let me share with you guys the convention center. This is just the South Concourse. I'm not even showing you guys the North Concourse. This is the South Concourse of the Orange County Convention Center. So this was the newer portion that was built. The North Concourse is about a block away. And so they have like a walkway that goes over International Drive that connects the two. But the North Concourse and the South Concourse are around equal in size. So this is it. This is the Orange County Convention Center here in Orlando. All right. So this is a waste of money because it's rarely ever fully occupied. Okay. Just to give you guys some context. Okay. So going back to the article, because we got to talk about this. So while other communities are courting high-wage jobs that pay $40 and $50 an hour, allowing workers to buy a house, pay for college, and save for retirement, Orange County continues to spend billions on $13 and $15 an hour jobs that leaves workers struggling. And county leaders did all this without taking any independent, skeptical experts to vet their spending, probably because they knew what experts would say. The world, after all, is moving away from in-person meetings. And we all know that building a big convention center doesn't magically make community wealthy, since we're at the bottom of the wage heap. Bottom line, if you can't make money running a 7 million square foot building, space isn't the problem. So it says that Mayor Jerry Demings even created a task force to allegedly consider a fresh perspective, but that force was largely a farce. It says, don't take it from me, take it from the task force members themselves. It says it was political theater, that I was merely a character in the mayor's and hospitality industry show. So that's from Stephen Facilla. Says, I find it funny that the poor are also vilified by receiving public funds to live, yet our government is about to spend $500 million to give corporate welfare to the already rich. People like Harrison Rosen, who owns the Rosen Hotel chain, Like you got the Rosen Center, the Rosen Plaza, and you got one of the biggest hotel resorts outside of Disney called the Rosen Shingle Creek. That place is massive. And you're going to sit here and listen to people like that. And yet, my neighborhood, right? The east side of John Young, you guys are going to let this place get gentrified all to hell while we have lower middle class and poor people who work on iDrive, who work in these theme parks, and we're not making enough to live. And they are charging us out the ass for rent. By the way, you cannot get a rent lower in this area, probably lower than $1,600 for a one bedroom. Some of us are lucky to get under $1,600 for a one bedroom. But you can't. And yet, people like Jerry Demings, as well as the Orange County commissioners, they want to appease. They basically want to kiss the feet of the hotel lobby and keep the money going their way, when in reality, we're the ones who suffer. Day in, day out, you see 5 o'clock in the morning. What do you see at the bus stop, especially the number 8 bus stops, right? That go down, up and down iDrive. What do you see? Hotel workers, a lot who are Latino, who are from Puerto Rico, Mexico, and Haiti, that are working in these positions in these hotels. You got some of these people that have to go and take the number 50 all the way out to the transportation ticket center at Disney, just and get there early in the morning just so they can work and operate the rides in the resorts at Disney World. You got some of them that had to take the number 42 so they can look. Trust me, I'm poor. I know the bus routes. You have to take those just to get you have to take the 40 just to get to Universal. By the way, the 40 only runs once every hour, which is stupid as hell. Anyways, so you have to take that to go to Universal to operate the rides there and to work the hotels and resorts there. And so they're not making much. And yet they're stressed out and they're trying to survive in a city that doesn't give, in a county that doesn't give a shit about them. Don't believe me? Let me share with this with you guys too. Let me go to my bookmarks because I didn't get to put this in. Because this is important. A lot of people don't realize this. And shout out to Roger Meadows because he shared this with me. And this is something that a lot of people really need to see. And I share this all the time. But I just want to make sure that, this solidifies it for everybody. So this is from the Out of Reach, and it shows how much you need to make in order to live in the state of Florida. So you need, in order to afford a 2-bedroom, you need to make $30.59 per hour in Florida, right? Our current minimum wage in the state of Florida is $11 an hour. I think it's supposed to go up in 2024 to $12 an hour, right? And so in order to afford a 2-bedroom, you have to work 111 hours a week at minimum wage in order to afford a 2-bedroom. To afford a 1-bedroom, you have to work 92 hours a week. Can anybody live? And we're in Orange County. Some of the more expensive counties are Monroe County, Miami Beach, Kendall, West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, and Naples, Immokalee, and Marcos Island. So, and then the average 2-bedroom, this is just average, is $1,591 a month, and the 1-bedroom is $1,312, right? So for a lot of us, it just doesn't work. And the fact is that you have these hotel workers that are constantly working multiple jobs a lot of the times in order to survive, and they can't survive. And so this is why also paying attention to local politics is also so important. So it says Facilla is right that these subsidies are corporate welfare. Hotel taxes are used primarily in one way in Central Florida to boost revenues for the hospitality industry, mainly through constant expansions of the convention center and subsidies for tourism marketing at Visit Orlando. Something I actually want to also say here as well in regards to Orlando. If you go to any public high school, and I can say this with confidence because I've seen this, that there's literally hospitality classes to get into the hotel industry in our high schools. How do I know? Because they had it in my high schools. When I went to Oak Ridge High School for my first 2 years, there was a hospitality class in Oak Ridge High School that serves my community. I have a relative that's a teenager that's literally in the hospitality class. So they set people up to get into the hospitality industry from high school. You will have hospitality classes in high school right now in Central Florida. Now, they may have it in other states too, but it's prominent here in Central Florida. So, but what good is it if you can't make enough to survive? The hospitality industry has a chokehold within Central Florida. All right, moving on. So it says Florida is the only state that restricts the use of hotel taxes to the promotion and development of an industry as opposed to also addressing the impacts of the industry. That's from Eric Gray. It says in other places like Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Phoenix, leaders use hotel taxes to pay for everything from transit and housing to roads and parks to help ease the tax burden for local residents. Here, local leaders ask citizens to raise their own taxes. I will give you an example. Here in Orlando, our transit system is called Lynx, right? It's the Lynx bus system. And so our transit system is tailored more towards the tourists instead of the residents. Why do I say this? Back in the day, there once was a young man named JB. And this young man used to have to work in restaurants in areas like Universal City Walk, which is the more touristy part of Universal Orlando. I used to work in a restaurant called NBA City, right? And so I was a line cook there, and being a line cook, you had to stay until the restaurant closed if you were closing. And especially during the busy season, which would be seasons in like July, August, September, we would stay open until 11 p.m., 12 p.m. sometimes, especially if it was like a game night, things like that. So being at the place like NBA City, sometimes we would get very prominent basketball players or former basketball players come in, and they would be treated like a VIP. Even if they came at closing times, it's like whatever they want, you have to make for them. So we would stay over. Well, if you're still cooking because you were slammed in a restaurant by like 12 o'clock p.m. and you still have a rail of tickets, well, you're not going to be able to start cleaning up and getting out till about maybe 1 to 1:30. But by the time you get to the bus stop, that bus stops running, right? So then if the bus, the longest route, the most popular route stops running around 1:30, you're screwed. And this is pre-Uber, pre-Lyft. This is before all that. So you would have to take a cab. But what if you didn't have enough money for cabs? So there would be times where I would literally have to take 3 hours just to walk home after working a 12-hour shift. I'll have to take 3 hours just to walk home at 2 o'clock in the morning. So by the time I get home, it'll be close to 5 a.m. from work after working a 12-hour shift and then having to walk 3 hours home because the bus stops running, because they don't tailor the system, the transit system, for us workers and us residents. So that's how it works here in the United States. United States, here in Central Florida, in Orange County. And so that's just one facet of what we go through. So it talks about the county commissioners who voted against it. It says Nicole Wilson and Emily Bonilla. And then the people who did vote for this obscene amount of money to go towards, to uplift the hotel lobby is, of course, Jerry Demings, Maribel Gomez Cordero, Christine Moore, Michael Scott, and Myra Uribe. And so this just goes to show this is very important to focus on locally what they're doing, because this has a direct effect on your life. So it says the vast majority of the money, including tens of millions expected to go to Visit Orlando again, will be spent ensuring Central Florida remains at the bottom of the barrel economy. It says, sure, some jobs related to conventions and hospitality pay decent wages. Event and meeting managers, for instance, can make $50,000 or $60,000 a year. But according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have about 1,300 event planning jobs compared to 22,770 ride and attraction attendants. The latter number represents the population larger than the city of Maitland that can't afford to live in Maitland because their median wage is $13.79 an hour, meaning half make less than that. It says we have tens of thousands of jobs in food prep that makes $13.93 an hour, housekeeping $13.89 an hour, and hotel desk clerks making $14.68 an hour. None of those professions pay enough to make ends meet, even if you double them for a 2-income home. Remember what I said, right? You need to make at least $31 an hour to survive. And even if you double their income, they still wouldn't be able to make enough. This is why also paying attention to local politics is important. And I'm saying that because a lot of times we focus so much on the national level, but local's also deeply important, because they're wasting money on these hotels. The money will come to these hotels. They are fine. What about the workers? That's what's important. And so, look, I'm going to share this article with you guys. If you're in Central Florida, in Orlando, you guys, share this with your family, share this with your friends, because this is also very important. Local, all politics is local, but if you need to focus on the local level as well, because a lot of people are suffering, especially here in Central Florida.